Guys, it's OopDoop44. How are you guys doing today? Today I've got another tier list that I'm going to be doing. This one is for the main worlds of Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie. Banjo Kazooie is one of my favorite franchises. I've enjoyed it ever since I was a kid. I just love the absurdity of it. I love the collectathon kind of ideals behind it, and I really enjoyed playing it. You know, playing as our favorite bear, Banjo, and our favorite, well, somewhat favorite bird, Kazooie. So, how do I kind of rank these? What do I kind of think of the levels in Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie? Well, first of all, I'm looking for challenge, I'm looking for level design, and I'm looking for characters, and I'm looking for just how I generally feel about the level and kind of how I approach it. So these are only the main levels in Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie, so this won't include Grunty's Lair, it won't include Furnace Fun, it won't include ILO Hags, and it won't include any of these sub areas. So that being said, let's get started with the tier list. Starting with Mumbo's Mountain. So Mumbo's Mountain, and these are Banjo Kazooie games we're starting with. Mumbo's Mountain is a basic starting level, and remember, there wasn't any game prior to this one, so this had to be extremely easy, had to be very open for new players to understand how the game works. It's small, there's nothing much difficult about it. The 10 jiggies in the level can be gotten in probably about 15-20 minutes if you know what you're doing. Obviously, it introduces Mumbo as a character. He's pretty cool. Not a huge fan of the termite transformation, but it is the first transformation of the game, so I let it slide. I think it's basically just getting your sea legs, so to speak, making sure that you are ready to move on to more levels. It's kind of a tutorial level in a way, and I think it does a good job at it. So Mumbo's Mountain, I'm going to put in B tier. I like it. I think it's a good starting level. Treasure Trove Cove, and there's Captain Blubber. He's one of my favorite characters. Treasure Trove Cove is a significant upgrade from Mumbo's Mountain. It's a wide open world. It's got low places, it's got high places, it's got Snacker, it's got Nipper, it's got, like I said, Captain Blubber. You can find Jiggies everywhere. They're clever to find. It's got the Code Castle, which I think is a great addition to the Kazooie and Tooie worlds. I just like the feel of the level. It's very open. It feels bigger than it actually is. And just in general, it's a level that I love going to and collecting the Jiggies in. I don't think there's a single Jiggy in that level that I don't appreciate getting. I think they're all unique and they're all in really special spots. It is an early level, so it's not too challenging, but I think it doesn't have to be because it's only the second level. So Treasure Trove Cove, that's an S tier. I don't think there's any question about that. Now, Clanker's Cavern. I had a feeling I was going to struggle ranking this one when I was thinking about making this list. Because on one hand, Clanker's Cavern is a phenomenal level, and on others, it's a struggle. So I'm going to have to go piece by piece with this. Clanker's Cavern is a bit drab. It's a bit, dull in a couple places. I don't like the first thing you have to do in the level, which is basically required, and that's go all the way down below Clanker and go through the key at the bottom. And you don't really have a lot of bubbles. That's really hard because the camera doesn't always focus. But if you can get past that, I feel like Clanker's Cavern, the rest of it is pretty substantially good. I think that the mutant crabs are interesting. I like the inside of Clanker. I like the general idea of Clanker. Again, a smaller level. But if you can get past that really difficult first part, I think the level is pretty decent. But the question is, where am I going to put it? I don't think it's as good as Mumbo's Mountain, but I don't know if I'm prepared to drop it a tier to see. It's tough. It's like right on the border of B and C. I'm going to put it in low B for now. I think that's where I'm going to put Clanker's Cavern. Like I said, it's not as good as Mumbo's Mountain, but it's kind of similar, and I think that's where I'm going to put it. All right, Bubble Gloop Swamp. I'd have to say Bubble Gloop Swamp is probably my least favorite Banjo Kazooie level. It's got the Tip Top Choir, which is great, but again, the level's a bit swamp. It is supposed to be a swamp, but it's just not realized very well. There are some jiggies that take a very long time in this level, ones with almost no margin for error. I'm not a fan of having to wade through the entire level. The crocodile is cool, but it's kind of hard to move around with them. Mr. Vile's minigame gives me fits. I like the jiggy where you have to spit the eggs into the golden crocodile's mouth. Those are pretty cool. However, it is very difficult for me to rank this high. I just can't warrant it. There are too many downsides to this level. Now, like I said with my Super Mario 64 tier list, there are no F levels in Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie. The level design is way too good for that. But one level has to be in the bottom, and that's going to be Bubble Gloop Swamp for Banjo Kazooie. So Bubble Gloop Swamp is going to go in the D tier. I mean, I want to bring it higher, but they're just it's just a pain sometimes to get through the level. So I don't really find myself very interested in doing Bubble Gloop Swamp every time I play. So Freezeezy Peak is interesting because I've seen a couple of tier lists where people are putting Freezeezy Peak as number 1 or S tier or number 2 or 3 or A tier, and I mean that's a good for you, but I don't know, I struggle with liking Freezeezy Peak. And I mean, I like the theme, but if you saw my Super Mario 64 tier list, you'll notice that I'm not a fan of snow levels. Cool Mountain got a D tier, and Snowman's Land got B, but I think looking back on it, I was a little bit generous. Let's see what I do and don't like about Freezeezy Peak. I like the twinklies. I do like the level design. I'm not a fan of the walrus. I'd say the walrus is probably my least favorite transformation in Banjo Kazooie. Boggy's just Boggy. I mean, he's crazy, but I don't really have an opinion of him one way or the other. The move you learn in this, the Beak Bomb, very hard to control. I don't like how you have to kill all the Surf Slushes. I always seem to mess that up. I mean, the snowman's pretty cool. I think climbing the scarf is a little bit tedious, but that's just me. I think Freezeezy Peak for me is probably going to go in C tier. I think it's pretty mid. I don't think it's horrible, but I also don't think it's really great either. It has a few redeeming features, but it's normally a level where when I get to it, I kind of just want to do the bare minimum of it and then move on. Kind of like Bubble Gloop Swamp, but the difference is that this one's a little, brighter and it has a little more to do in it. So I'll put it in C tier. Gobi's Valley. So I love Gobi. He's one of my favorite characters. Also in this level is Trunker the Tree, and also the different pyramids that you can go inside with different mini games like King Sandybutt's Tomb and the Tile mini game. I think Gobi's Valley is pretty much an average level. I think it's pretty good, but it's not like super good. And I do like the mini games in this level. I like the level design. And I think it will firmly go into B tier. I think that's a safe place to put it. I'm gonna put it. Oh, this is a tough decision. Which is better, Clanker or Gobi? I'm gonna say Gobi's Valley is slightly better, I think, than Clanker's Cavern. Slightly, not by much, but it is a little bit better. Alright, now it's time to get to some of my favorite levels in the Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie era, and that's the last 3 levels of Banjo Kazooie. I've always been a fan of these for one way or another. Mad Monster Mansion shoots straight up to S tier. I love Mad Monster Mansion. I think that the idea of going inside of a mansion has always thrilled me. I love Luigi's Mansion, by the way. It's kind of just going inside of a house, exploring rooms. Mad Monster Mansion is very much an exploratory level, and also it's added because it has my favorite mini game in the entirety of Banjo Kazooie, and that's the Moat Sand mini game in the church. I absolutely love that game. I know that Donkey Kong 64, they did a similar game in Frantic Factory, so I was like, yeah, that reminds me of the Moat Sand mini game. I like the enemies are very clever in this level. I like the gravestones that come out of the ground. I like the bats and the ghosts that you can only defeat with the Wonder Wing. So I think Mad Monster Mansion is a very clever level. Don't forget the skeletons. I'm looking at the picture here, the skeletons too. I don't think there's a Jiggy in this level I don't like. I like scaling the church. I like going into Lago. I think just Mad Monster Mansion is pretty perfect. So I'm gonna put it in S tier. And a lot of people I've seen on tier lists are putting Rusty Bucket Bay in not great spots. So they're putting it in C or D, or if it has it, F tier. But I mean, I don't see Rusty Bucket Bay being that different from Mad Monster Mansion. Sure, the Jiggies are harder, but it's a harder level. It's got a good challenge factor to it. It's not like unfair challenge. It's good challenge. I think that the engine room is a great measuring stick to see where you are in the game. Yes, it does seem a little unfair, but by now your platforming should be pretty good. When I die in the engine room, I don't like fret too much. Now, I would say obviously it is a little bit more difficult on the N64 version where the notes scores aren't saved, but Rusty Bucket Bay, it has a special place in my heart. It is a little biased because this is the first level I remember in the game when I was a kid, and my brother was playing it when he was like 5, when I was like 5 or 6. Plus, you can see Snorkel the Dolphin. I love Snorkel the Dolphin. Every time I hear his cry, I just want to go and rescue him. You know, I think it's interesting how you got the boat in the center and you got the whole outer area, and that's where all the Jinjos are. Rusty Bucket Bay is my favorite level in Banjo Kazooie. I don't think there's any question. It's right up there with Mad Monster Mansion, but I think it is a little bit better, so I'm going to put it in front of Mad Monster Mansion. Both Mad Monster Mansion and Rusty Bucket Bay are quintessential examples of level design. They're pretty much perfect in every respect. So, again, I know a lot of people put Rusty Bucket Bay lower, but I consider the challenge in this level to be good challenge and not frustrating or boring challenge. So, I think the only thing in Rusty Bucket Bay I might knock is the fight with the box. But then again, it's still not that bad. So, definitely Rusty Bucket Bay, S tier number 1. Finally, Click Clock Wood. Again, Click Clock Wood definitely feels a lot like the other two levels. The only difference with this level, and why it's not going to go in the S tier, is it's a vertical level. I am not a huge fan of vertical levels. Mad Monster Mansion is pretty flat for the most part. I mean, it does have the scale of the church thing, but mostly flat. Rusty Bucket Bay, again, mostly flat. Not a lot of vertical climbing, but Click Clock Wood is very vertical, so it's going to lose points for that. I do like how everything changes through the seasons. Avery the Eagle is the cutest thing I've ever seen. I love him. And I just think that the level design is impeccable, as it has been for the last couple levels. But I think it's going to stay out of S tier. I think I'm going to put it in A tier. So, also, as a side note, I think that the Grunty's Lair theme for Click Clock Wood is the best of all of the Grunty's Lair themes. I think it has a good harmony, and I really enjoy listening to it. So, this is kind of what I think of the Banjo Kazooie levels. There are 3 S tiers, Click Clock Wood in A tier, 3 B tiers, Freeze Easy Peek in C, and Bubble Gloop in D. I'm pretty happy with that. So, obviously 2 years later, Grunty falls under a boulder, gets stuck there for 2 years, and then comes out as a skeleton. And the story and events from Banjo Tooie get underway. So, Mayahem Temple. Now, Mayahem Temple is basically the same as Mumbo's Mountain, except it's a little bit bigger, and I think it's kind of designed where the game already expects you to have played Banjo Kazooie, since the puzzles are a little bit more difficult, and just in general, there's more stuff to do. Now, I should just mention, that I actually played Tooie before I played Kazooie, because I owned Tooie, but we only rented Kazooie, and when I was 7 or 8, we weren't renting it at that time. It wasn't until later that I got a copy of it. So Tooie was first for me. And I think Mayhem Temple was a pretty strong first level. I think that the Mayhem Kickball League is fine. That particular one is okay. I think the only thing I really don't like about it is the Target Zan stuff and the Unga Bunga. I'm not huge fans of those, but it doesn't put it down that far. I think Mayhem Temple's going to go in B tier, right above Mumbo's Mountain. I think both Mayhem and Mumbo's Mountain are both great starting levels. And also Mayhem Temple has the cheat room, though I do prefer Treasure Trove Coves just because I'm not great with egg gaming, which is going to come into play a little bit later. Glitter Gulch Mine, that's a tough one. So, with Glitter Gulch Mine, I know the transformations in Banjo Tooie are done by Wumba. The detonator is the transformation in Glitter Gulch Mine, and I am not a fan of it. Obviously, it does damage to itself. It's difficult to hop along. I do think the level is a bit drab. I think that it's there's a lot of, I don't know, I'm just not feeling the setting as much as some other levels. However, I do like the Crushing Shed Jiggy. I do like the Flooded Caves exploration. I like how you can get to the Mega Globo from Glitter Gulch Mine. I think that sometimes with Glitter Gulch Mine, it is difficult for me to figure out where I'm going, and that's not usually a good sign when it comes to a level. The fight with Old King Cole is, well, it's a fight. I enjoy it. And, yeah, I mean, I'm finding it a little bit tricky to rank Glitter Gulch Mine, but looking at this list, I'm probably going to put it in C tier, above Freeze Easy Peak, I think. Or will I put it below Freeze Easy Peak? I'm going to put it below Freeze Easy Peak. I think it's okay. It's mid. I think there's stuff I like about Glitter Gulch Mine and stuff that I don't, and I think that's fair. Now, Witchy World, on the other hand, is a phenomenal level. I love the abandoned carnival, theme that it has. I love how there's 4 different areas you can go in. Area 51, the Space Zone, the Western Zone, and that Monster Inferno Zone. I think the Jiggies are well placed in this level. I love the van transformation. I don't think there's anything really wrong with Witchy World that I can think of. I love everything about it. The Dodgems Dome is fun. The Saucer of Peril is fun. I think the Star Spinner is a little bit frustrating, but, it's part of the challenge. And we first encounter Minjos in Witchy World, which is something that I always forget when I play, and then I always run into one. I think there is one thing in Witchy World I'm not a huge fan of, and that's the Hoop Hurry and Balloon Burst challenge games. And as much as I love Mr. Patch, the airborne egg aiming is really tough for me. So that fight gets a bit soured by that, but still, I think Witchy World is an A tier level, and I'm going to put it above the Clockwood. Now, Jolly Rogers Lagoon, this one is tough because, it's not tough to rank. I know where it's going, but I wanted it to be better. I really wanted this one to be better. I like how you can just swim underwater without needing any kind of protection. You just got the sun that Mumbo kind of oxygenates the water. But what's even worse than the airborne egg aiming, at least for me, is the sub-aqua egg aiming. I find Lord Wu Fak Fak is a really tough boss, but in a frustrating way because he's hard to see. And, he's still a good boss. I like his personality. The having to use ice eggs on the octopi can be frustrating. I sometimes get a little bit lost in Jolly Rogers Lagoon as well, especially underwater. The submarine transformation is pretty cool, though. There isn't much to do on the surface other than collect some Jiggies, obviously you gotta hatch Tip Top's egg. But overall, Jolly Roger's Lagoon kind of reminds me of Gloomy Galleon from Donkey Kong 64. And Gloomy Galleon's okay, but I even think Jolly Roger's Lagoon is not quite as good as Gloomy Galleon. So I'm going to put Jolly Roger's Lagoon, and I don't want to do this, but I'm going to put it in low C tier. I'm not, I think it just stays out of D tier, and that might only just be because of the submarine transformation. And that might be it, honestly. Jolly Roger's Lagoon is just, it's a level that I can pass on if I really wanted to. And unfortunately, things don't get much better with Pterodactyl Land. I think Pterodactyl Land is a very dull, too open level. I don't feel any feelings for Terry, even though you're supposed to save her babies. The level is very bland brown, and the colors don't really stick out to me. The dinosaur transformation's okay, but nothing super special about it. I think the only part of the level that I really enjoy is the stomping plains, but getting there is a pain. You have to go all the way to the top of the level and then cross this bonfire cave just to get there, and it's such a short area. Pterodactyl Land is not, it's very, very big, and this is probably the level that I get lost in the most. I had mentioned with Glitter Gulch Mine that big levels and levels I get lost in are not usually going to be ranked high. So, yeah, Pterodactyl Land is my least favorite level from Banjo Tooie, and I guess from the Banjo Kazooie series in general. And it's going to go in D tier. Not to say that it's a bad level, but it's just not one that appeals to me very much. Now, let's take a look at Grunty's Industries for a minute, because a lot of people, for the similar reasons of Rusty Bucket Bay, they rank Grunty's Industries pretty low. But again, like with Rusty Bucket Bay and Mad Monster Mansion, Grunty's Industries, I feel, is a very fun, exploratory level. I feel like every time I play it, there's something new to discover. I feel like the steps in order to get to certain areas are a lot, but they feel worthwhile every time you do it. When you have to battle Weldar, you have to disable an electromagnetic pulse, you have to hit a switch, and then you have to go into the air conditioning plant and fight him. And the fight itself is fun too. I mean, once you're finished all that, you're like, wow, I actually accomplished something. Grunty's Industries is just a level that I love, and it's hard to really say. The outside, if you look at the outside of Grunty's Industries, you don't know how to get in the level, or if you haven't got the train in, it's a bit bland. But I really like the inside of Grunty's Industries. I love the quiet interior music. I love everything about Grunty's Industries. And I think that it deserves an A tier. I'm going to put it right at the top of A tier. I really like Grunty's Industries. I think it would almost go into S tier, but I think the outside brings it down a little. And the Skivvy quest is not a favorite of mine. Neither is the Clinker quest, but I think it is pretty safe to put Grunty's Industries in A tier. Now moving on to Hailfire Peaks. I really like Hailfire Peaks. I think it's a wonderfully designed level. I think I prefer the ice side a little more to the fire side. I think the fire side is a little vertical, although it is kind of difficult to navigate the ice side, but I kind of know where everything is. I like the oil switch task. I don't like the Coliseum. I like the Mayan one, but I don't like the Coliseum Kickball League that much. The Gobi returns, which is nice. I think Hailfire Peaks really stands out with its bosses, Chili Billy the Dragon and Chili Willy the Dragon. I think that they're excellent bosses. I love their personalities. They really make it. The level being split in two is a great concept. And to solve puzzles on one side, you have to complete stuff on another. Hailfire Peaks is a very strong level, and I'm going to put it in A tier as well, but I'm going to put it in between Witchy World and Click Clock Wood. So, Hailfire Peaks, a strong level, and I do enjoy it. Finally, we've got Cloud Cuckoo Land. And Cloud Cuckoo Land is interesting because It's wacky. It's out of control. It's fun. It's whimsical. Now, a lot of people have trouble with the Canary Mary race. I don't mind it. I think because a lot of people who play it, they think they have to mash the A button as fast as possible. But if you actually start off pretty slow, then the rubber band kicks in, and Canary Mary does not go as fast, and I find it easier to beat under those circumstances. I don't really like how there's only 2 warp pads in this level, in Central Cavern and in the beginning. The B transformation is fun. I like the B transformation. Same thing with Hailfire because I like the snowball transformation as well. I think Cloud Cuckoo Land is crazy, and it's absolutely nuts. Fighting Mingy Django was always a pleasure. I enjoy it. I think Cloud Cuckoo Land is going to go in A tier between Hailfire Peaks and Click Clock Wood, I think. Yeah, that sounds about right. I think it's got a cheese wedge, a trash can, a jelly castle, a pot of gold. It is just one of the most whimsical levels ever. I think the design is great. So I think that's going to be my Banjo Kazooie, Banjo Tooie level tier list. I'm going to start from the bottom and work our way up, see if I want to change anything. Pterodactyl Land's definitely at the bottom, Bubble Gloop Swamp right above it. I'm fine with that. Jolly Roger's Lagoon, I don't like putting it that low, but that's where it goes. Glitter Gulch Mine and Freeze Easy Peak, yeah, I'm fine with that. Clanker's Cavern, yeah. Gobi's Valley, Mumbo's Mountain. I'm really thinking of interchanging these two. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. You know what? I am going to interchange them. The reason is because Gobi's Valley does have a little more challenge to it, and I think that it deserves a slightly higher spot. Mayhem Temple, I think, will stay where it is. Bunch of A tier and S tier levels. Obviously, my favorite level from Tooie is Grunty Industries and Witchy World, Hailfire Peaks, Cloud Cuckoo Land. All 4 of these levels very strong. And Click Clock Wood, I think, could be stronger, but of course, because it is so vertical and it's hard to climb and you fall, you die kind of thing. But the Seasons, man, it is such a good level. And I think my S tier levels are pretty good too. Rusty Bucket Bay, I know a lot of people say that it's a frustrating type of challenge and it's just too difficult and you're going to lose your notes, but it's part of the challenge, and that's why I really like Rusty Bucket Bay. Mad Monster Mansion, same thing. I love how there's like little areas you can explore in both of those levels. Treasure Trove Cove is just an open, all-around great level, and I have nothing negative to say about any of the 3 of these levels that would be causing it to go down. So I'm pretty happy with this list. So I guess this is my Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie level tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you like videos like this, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube, OopDoop44. I have recently started doing tier lists. I also do N64 and GameCube and other games, mods, hacks, and randomizers as well, so you can check those out on my page. And I'm curious to see what you think about Banjo Kazooie and Tooie levels in the comments. So if you liked the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys later.